Hi, my love. This is going to be your within the web reading. So just a couple things before we begin. First thing, I'm expecting a really important phone call. And instead of sitting around waiting for the phone call to happen, I'm just gonna go ahead and start filming readings. Now what happens when the phone call comes through is the video will cut and then obviously I'll take the phone call. So if that happens, I'm just gonna start up where I left off, film, and then I'll just have to merge both videos together as one. So really on your end, if it happens, you're only going to see a cut, like a real quick cut. But other than that, I just wanted to let you know, just in case you were wondering or was, a little bit distracted by that. Hopefully it won't happen, but if it does, it does, it is what it is. I need to get the readings done. So I can't sit around waiting for a phone call that may never happen, And then second, I just read your email. So I have an idea of the question that you're asking. Like I have a little bit of a background story on it from what you said. So basically today's question is we're going to be looking at, should I be pursuing my career as a writer or give in to a traditional job? So, it was really interesting reading your email because what I was seeing is like, from what I was sensing from your email is that, now, there we go. We already have a jumper card. Is that you are already, it's almost like you're already sensing that the writing career is somewhat distancing. There's a distance between you and the writing career. It's almost like you kind of sense it already. And maybe you're looking for validation for that feeling that you've been having. And I think it's hard for you to turn your back on something that you once really, really, really loved. And so I feel like that is what was coming through with that. The other thing I was feeling is you're not 100% giving up your writing career, because based off of the spiritual stuff, the spiritual things that you are doing, there's some opportunities there for writing. And so you're technically not giving it up. But maybe taking it in a different direction. So we're going to pull cards on that. And then I'm also just going to keep in mind everything that you mentioned in the email. So let me get this spread going. Let me pull all of the cards. Sorry, I just want to move this out of the way. Let me pull all of the cards first, and then we'll just get into it. So we're going to start with the spider, which is the energy surrounding the question. So our little spider is going to be the oracle card here. To the left, which is these two cards that I really feel wanted to both come out together, is the past. To the right is the future. Up is if you move forward. Down is if you don't move forward. And then we have the insect, the dead insect. What is binding you to this reality? And so I feel like we could use an oracle card for the dead insect as well. Oh, there we go. What is binding you to this reality? I think I also want to pull a tarot card for that too. What is binding you to this reality? Oh, well, that's too many cards. That is way too many cards, Spirit. Let's keep it at a minimum. Let's see. Okay, we'll do two. Spirit really has a lot of cards for you to come out. And then there's the butterfly. How can you let go and move on? And so let's do another oracle. How can you let go and move on? No jumpers for that one. No? No jumpers? Okay, let's do this one for our butterfly. Okay, excuse me. So we're going to start off with the spider, the energy surrounding the question. So this is the energy surrounding the question. And you got the spider, which is community and web weaving. So the energy surrounding the question of should you stay should you continue your career path as a writer, or do you do more of a traditional job? The web weaving card to me, like the spider is really meticulous. The spider creates its web for the purpose. Okay, there's always a purpose to everything a spider does, and it creates its web to trap food and whatnot, to take care of its babies. And so I feel like what happens is the energy surrounding your question is more so, I feel as your heart is more so wrapped around the good of the family versus your own personal, quote unquote, selfish needs. Okay. You're a mother, right? And you have a family, and you are very much aware of that, as you stated in your email. And so I feel like with the spider energy, the energy surrounding it is that you're willing to take yourself out of the situation, out of the picture, your personal needs, your interests, all of that, to do what needs to be done for the sake of the family. Okay. The other thing I see with the community and web weaving is working with the community, which I feel is what is going to help you evolve. And I feel like that's more so from your spiritual, like the spiritual path is like the collaborations that you're going to be doing very, very soon with these people, as you mentioned. I feel like that's actually going to be winding into something even more. Like it's setting the tone for what's to come in the future. Okay. So I feel like right now the energy surrounding this question is not so much picking one or the other, but it's more so of like, how are you going to, be supplying a solid ground, a foundation for the family, as well as working with others. And I feel like quite honestly, you're doing it right now. Like you're on that path right now. If that makes sense. Okay. To the left is the past. And there was 2 cards that came out for you with the past. So we have the Hierophant, which is definitely like the wedding that took place between you and your husband, the ceremony, the coming together, the merging of lives, right? The Hierophant energy is also very, very like traditional energy. It's maybe you got married with the intention of wanting to do the whole what a wife does, and the whole like you get married and you have kids and you get the house and blah blah blah, like the typical American dream, right? So I feel like that's like within the past of the Hierophant. And then we also have Judgment, and what was in the near past is the Judgment is that higher calling. That is your spiritual awakening that happened. So you kind of see like the two. You see the traditional mindset when you were probably really, really young. You had it in your mind of, okay, this is what we're supposed to do. When you get older, you meet someone, you get married, you have kids, and you follow the list of expectations. But as life happens and as you evolve and your mind, your heart grows and whatnot, this kind of stuff kind of dwindles. It kind of turns into something not as important as other areas. And so then that's when the judgment calls happens. And that's what judgment is. That is your higher self. Your spirit is calling you. Also, this is the sign, I believe that's the sign of Pluto. And to me, Pluto, I wonder if there's I never really noticed that about these cards. No, there isn't a zodiac sign in all of them. I feel like I'm pretty sure this is Pluto. Pluto has so many different signs, like so many different symbols. But transformation. So I feel like what takes place is that you've had that typical mindset that a lot of us American people have. This is the American dream. This is what we want to do. And then it's like you have this amazing, mind-blowing experience, or you meet somebody and it's just like your whole world changes based off of your faith or your interests. And I feel like that's what took place in the recent past, is that you had this amazing awakening and you realized, oh my gosh, I have a love, a talent, a need, a desire to fulfill these other areas in my life and not just the expected ones. Okay. So that's what I'm seeing there with the recent past. So really interesting that those cards came up for you. To the right is the future. So that is this one. And to the right, we have the Ace of Pentacles. I love it. So to the future, there is an opportunity there, obviously, but there will be a new beginning. There will be a financial new beginning. Okay. So definitely, as you know, there will be something taking place. The little crow is sitting on top of his little pentacle with pride, pretty much, that there's going to be a financial change in your future. It's going to be an opportunity. This will probably definitely be, like a new job or a new offer or of some sort. But I want to pull cards for the idea of what more this will be. So I'm going to keep it in my mind to pull some extra cards for you with this, because I want to kind of go in deeper, but I also want to do my spread. So I do feel like, yes, this card is basically answering, Ace of Pentacles is basically answering, there's going to be a new path. Something new is going to be taking place, and it's going to be obviously with the finances, with the job, the material, that sort of thing. So there's something good on its way to you in the very, very near future. Up. So going up in the web. This is if you move forward. So I feel like, because we're questioning it, we're wording it is, should I focus on, should I be pursuing my career as a writer or give in to the traditional job? So if I move forward with going towards the traditional job, because that would be the big change. Or if you continue pursuing your position as a writer, that would be if you don't do anything different, because that's pretty much, you'd be kind of still doing the same thing you're doing now. So if you move forward with the traditional job, we have the Page of Swords. So this would be a really impulsive decision, okay? Pages of Swords are, I always see the Pages of Swords as carrying more than you can handle. Sometimes we make quick decisions. We don't think about it. We don't think it through. We're quite impulsive. And then usually oftentimes we realize we bit off more than we can chew. And I feel like this card kind of represents that really good. You see this poor little crow holding on for dear life with this big sword, and that's a big heavy sword, and then look at the weather. There's just storms, there's rain, there's lightning. So I feel like what's happening here is this crow didn't think it through. He didn't think his path through. And that's oftentimes very much with the page, because pages, when you're thinking of them in the levels of our mindsets and our experiences in the tarot, pages are at the very bottom. They're learning, they're students, they're immature, they're inexperienced. And I feel like that's what's taking place, is if you move forward with a traditional job, you're probably going to be grabbing the first opportunity that comes to you, because you're in a state of panic. And I feel like that's what happens there, because you even mentioned it in your email, that things are going to be changing next year, and your husband is going to be retiring from his thing that he does, and you feel like it's within your duty as a wife and as a partner in this relationship that you have to fulfill, your needs as bringing in finances as well. Which I agree, I agree with that as I'm a wife too. I agree that, we bring in our peace. But you also have to understand too, you brought in the children, okay? You mothered the children. You raised your children. You bring in other things, other aspects, other dynamics to the relationship and to the marriage, not just finances. Finances is just a piece of that whole big pie that you guys are playing with. And I have to remind myself that too. So I feel like I needed to say that to you. I feel like that's what's important here to remember, is that it's not just money. You are just as valuable and just as important, and bringing in just as much. It may not be money, but it's so much more. So don't downplay yourself. Okay, so then this is also if you don't move forward. So if you remain with the job, with the whole quest to be a writer, we have the Fool. So the Fool is taking risks. It's also quite impulsive too, right? As the Page of Swords, but it's a different scenery. This Page of Swords is turbulent. He's just holding on for dear life, hoping that, whatever he's doing is going to work. The Fool card, it's more of a serene setting. And so I'm taking note of that very much. I feel like with you going into the territory of what you're most familiar with, you're not familiar with a position just taking on any job. You may not have experience with it, or you may not even like it. But it's merely for money. Whereas with the writing career or with the spiritual stuff, that is where you know it. That's where you're most familiar. And I feel like with the Fool, it's kind of saying there's an opportunity for a journey to go on to. And I feel like it's more appealing to you. And then I also feel like the Fool itself, the Fool, is other people's way of looking at you in this situation. There's people who will be judging your choices, and they'll probably be looking at you as, what a fool for not helping out with the money. Like, there's always going to be people like that. And we just don't pay them any mind. You know what I mean? If they're not paying your bills, then too bad. But I also wanted to throw that in there too, that there's probably going to be people who will be judging. And if you spend too much of your time focusing on what they're saying and thinking, it's going to drive you nuts. So don't do that. So that's what, if you don't go, there's still opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for you. Next we have the Dead Insect. What is binding you to this reality? And we have the Hearth, happiness in our homes and hearts. I love it. So this is the home card. This is the cozy card. This is being at home. It's cozy. It's familiar. It's everything that you need it to be. That's what's binding you to this reality of it, is that you've always had a place. You've always had, your thing that you had to fulfill. And I feel like that's what it is, that's why this is so important for you to be a provider, because you feel like it's your responsibility. We also have the Magician and the Hangman. I love it. The Magician is your ability to create and manifest, whereas the Hangman is your ability to, or your need to see things from a different set of eyes. Sometimes you have to step outside of yourself in order to see the bigger picture. And step into someone else's eyes, looking in on your relationship in your situation. And what would you tell yourself if you were watching yourself doing this? Is kind of what these cards are saying. I really feel, my personal opinion on this is, I really feel like you would be unhappy doing the traditional, okay? If there's a reason why you haven't done the traditional so far, and I feel like just jumping into it strictly for money is going to be a recipe for unhappiness. I'm telling you from experience, because I've been guilty of doing the same thing. If it's not going to fulfill your purpose, you're going to feel like a fish out of water. I'll just be honest with you. And yeah, the money might be great and it might help the situation, but there's other ways for you to bring in money, and you've already stated that with the spiritual. And so if you stick with something and that makes you happy and what you're familiar and comfortable with, the Fool is showing you just sometimes you have to take a leap of faith and see the journey through. And obviously the Future card coming up as an Ace of Pentacles is there's going to be opportunity. So really, really, really amazing stuff there. Lastly, the Butterfly, which is how can you let go and move on? We have the Witch. Does that not answer your question? The Witch is spiritual. The Witch is your spirituality. The Witch is a creator of and a manipulator of energy. You do things. The earthly weaver of the worlds. You create your reality just like the Magician. So you have a Witch and a Magician here. You are fully capable of creating your reality. But if you're doing something that you love, because if you're doing something you don't love, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder for you to create and manifest, because it's not authentic. So I really, really feel like that kind of answers it. You know what? Let me use my Trigger Tarot to have a fresh tarot deck in this reading. I just want to pull real fast on the Future. I think you should, I usually don't like to tell my clients what to do, but for you with this situation, I think this will bring unhappiness. I think it's going to bring more disaster. I feel like this is just a few months of you in limbo until, like you said, your mother-in-law or your mother, I'm not sure what it was, and that they're going to be home with you guys. And they're going to be able to watch the children. So the money situation won't be as crazy as it would be had you not had that option, because I know childcare can be really crazy expensive from what I've heard. So it's kind of like if you do maybe if you guys re-budget and you do your finances just right, maybe you'll be able to make it work. So you don't have to just rush into something that you may regret later. So the cards I pulled, we have the Moon, we have the 10 of Cups, and we have the number 13, or Death. I love it. So death is pretty much changes and transformations are on the horizon. You need to be willing to let go of something, close the door to one thing to allow the opportunity for another. I feel like your desire, your dream of being a fictional writer, that may go off on the back burner, but you're still doing writing in a spiritual way. So I feel like as long as you continue writing in some kind of form, there's going to be other avenues later on. So you're not completely giving it up. We have the 10 of Cups, which is happiness in your home, right? Your family life. And then we have the Moon card, which is mystery. You're not meant to see and know the answers just yet. You have to kind of trust. I feel like this is a whole path of trust. Trusting in what your intuition is leading you to do. Trusting your heart. And putting that to the test, you know? And just know that the opportunity is there. And financially, you guys are going to be fine. But I feel like there's going to be more unhappiness with just diving into something, you know, cold turkey, than it would be if you stick with what you know, and maybe you have more of an ability to manipulate that energy to create more abundance. Okay. I hope that this reading helped, my love. I hope it gave you something to consider, think about, something to, you know, wrap your mind around. Thank you so much for allowing me to read for you. I still have you on my list to do the seance reading. So I will be getting to those. I probably won't get to the seance reading until next weekend. So my next days for filming will be Friday, Sunday, and Monday, because I work this Saturday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I don't do any readings. That's my day job work week. So I may not get to your seance reading until next weekend, but I do have you on my list. I just wanted to get something out to you now. So I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, my love.